He's given me something to read, and I'm going to read it for. You know what? I'll read it now, and then I'll tell you what I really want to say. Reverend Patrick Harbula has been a spiritual leader, a counselor, and a coach for over 25 years, and reaches hundreds of thousands in his writing and personal and media appearances. Patrick is the author of The Magic of the Soul, Applying Spiritual Power to Daily Living, which is being used as an elective course for Science of Mind training in Centers for Spiritual Living. He's the founder of the Living Purpose Institute and the creator of the Life Coaching Certification Program and Primal Fire Intensive. See, I didn't know all this about you. I guess I should read this, hey? He was ordained as an independent religious science minister by the late Dr. Earl Barnum in 1985 and affiliated with CSL in 2010. Trained in spiritual psychology under the late Dr. Vivian King. He is also ordained and recognized as a Doctor of Divinity through the Spiritual Unity Movement, of which he was the president for 12 years. Dang! He founded Meditation Magazine. He was formerly a director of Sage Publications, a world-renowned social science publisher. Patrick will be available after service to sign his book, The Magic of the Soul. And he gave me this thing, which is also available. This is the coolest thing in the history of the world. This just looks like a card, right? Yes, it looks like a card. But you go like this, and it becomes a USB drive that has the audio version of his book. Seriously! Who loves technology? Who loves Patrick? Who wants to meet him and hear from him and learn from him? Without any further ado, please welcome to the stage Reverend Patrick Harbula, speaking on radical gratitude and entrance into the sacred. Please give him a hand.
This center is about having fun and being in joy, yes? I love playing with this band. Love to be back here. I tell you, you guys are so lucky here. You got this band, you got Amy Bishop. You know, every time Amy and I she's sung at some of the same conferences that I've spoken at, and every cover song I've ever heard her do, she does better than the original artist did. And how you got teamed up with Reverend Pat Campbell is purely, obviously, divinely inspired. What a all right, radical gratitude and entrance into the sacred. I think I'm going to start out with a joke. I just didn't feel inspired to start out with a joke. So it's all about fun. It's all about joy. So there's these two brothers, Bob and Ed. Bob is a cat lover. Bob has this cat that he just absolutely adores named Perky. And Ed, his brother, hates cats. So Bob's going away on vacation and thinks, well, what am I going to do with my cat? I could leave my cat with Ed, but Ed hates cats. On the other hand, Ed's been taking care of our elderly mother for several years. He's done a great job with that. I guess if I can trust my mother with Ed, I ought to be able to trust my cat with Ed. So he goes on vacation, leaves his cat with Ed, goes on vacation, comes back 2 weeks later, calls up his brother, says, hey brother, how you doing? By the way, how's Perky doing? Ed says, oh, sorry brother, Perky died. Oh, mom's calling, gotta go, click. And Bob is just overwrought with grief that his loving cat, his family member has died. And also, he's upset at the callous way in which Ed gave him the news. So he grieves his loss, and a couple days later he calls up Ed and he says, you know, Ed, I got to tell you, it really hurt my feelings how you gave me the news about Perky. And Ed says, well, I don't know how to say it. Your cat's dead. What else can I say? He says, well, you could have given me the news like gradually and gently. You could have told me that, Perky's up on the roof playing. And then you could have called me later and said, Perky fell off the roof, but we think he's going to be okay. We're doing everything we can. And then when I came in person to pick him up, you could have said, brother, I got to tell you, we did everything we could, but Perky didn't make it. And so Ed says, well, maybe you're right, brother. Maybe I could have been a little more compassionate in how I gave you the news. And Bob says, well, okay, I forgive you, brother. He says, by the way, how's mom doing? Ed says, mom's up on the roof playing. So sometimes we're like Ed, right? We're like Bob, where we don't want to hear the bad news. We resist what life is providing for us, right? And we know what happens when we resist things, when whatever we resist, and the more we resist it, the more it persists, and the stronger it gets, right? So I want to tell you about, some of you may have heard me tell the story again, but I want to catch the rest of you up, about how The Magic of the Soul became the book that it became. So originally, I was going to write this book called The Magic of the Soul, how to create what you want, how to manifest what you want in life. And I felt I was pretty darn good at manifestation, okay? I had a wonderful corporate job with Sage Publications. I had a wonderful marriage of 13 years. I was physically strong and healthy. I was a tennis pro in my 20s. This was about 40 years old when I was writing the book, 20 years ago now. And when I started to write the book anyway. And a funny thing happened on the way to The Magic of the Soul. Everything fell apart. I became chronically ill, and my marriage of 13 years ended. The corporate job went away, all within about a period of 6 months. And I was chronically ill for about 3 years before there was any improvement, before there was any diagnosis, in fact. And I tried everything I could to heal. I went the traditional route. I went to Mayo Clinic. They couldn't find anything, had all the tests done. I was, of course, doing all kinds of alternative methods, herbs, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, obviously meditation, spiritual mind treatment. I was energy healing, throwing lightning bolts at it. Nothing was changing the condition. And all the while, I am resisting the symptoms. I'm resisting the experience. And so, and by the way, another little caveat is my father died at 42 of cancer that hadn't been diagnosed for several years. And there were times when I couldn't get out of bed for weeks at a time. And I'm starting to think that maybe I'm coming to the end of this journey. And so I decided, I had an epiphany, and I decided, you know what, if I am to die from this is a moment of acceptance. If I am to die from this, I'm going to use the experience of dying to understand who I am as a sacred being at the deepest level possible. And guess what happened? Started to heal. It was not a direct line to healing, though. What would happen is I would start to feel better as a result of surrendering. And then I'd go out and do something I used to be able to do, like take a walk, and that would put me back in bed. And then I'd start resisting again, because it felt so good just to feel a little bit better, just for a few moments. And so I'd resist it, and then the symptoms would increase. And then I remember, oh yeah, it was that surrendering thing that got me to feel better. And so it was as though my soul had designed this absolutely perfect scenario for me to learn how to be in a consistent or more and more consistent state of surrender. So I ask you the question, what would life be like? What is life like in a consistent state of surrender? I say in The Magic of the Soul, why is it that I wait until the very crescendo of struggle to surrender? Why not surrender at the very first sign of conflict or difficulty or pain? Right? So the theme of the book became different then. For a while I wasn't writing at all because I was thinking to myself, there's nothing magical about this experience. But au contraire. Au contraire. And so the theme then became that yes, it's magical to create what we want in life, to manifest what we want. But what's even more magical is to appreciate what we have. Right? And not only the things that obviously bring us joy, but especially the things that challenge us the most. Because what we always, all as conscious beings, look back to our most challenging moments in life and say, that's when I grew the most, right? We might even in retrospect say it was a blessing. But how do we process these experiences in the moment? We usually resist, at least at the beginning. In fact, the phrase came to me not long ago, is what if the measure of enlightenment is the distance between discomfort and acceptance, or pain and gratitude, right? Shorter the distance, the greater the enlightenment. And wherever we are on that journey is the perfect place to be. And it's all a journey. We're all on this journey together. So, I absolutely know, so the theme of the book then became, well, I said that already, so I absolutely know that the book would not have been as deep a presentation if not for that illness. So it's kind of easy for me to look back and see the magic in that. I get emails from people almost every day saying this is the most transformational book I've ever read. And none of that would happen if not for the illness. So here's the way I write about it in The Magic of the Soul. When we're in the experience of appreciating the sacredness in life, we open to a world of unlimited possibilities. Because we are alert to the magic, we notice opportunities that we might otherwise miss. Life becomes filled with a deeper level of peace and meaning as we recognize every experience as magical and know that each experience leads us to an ever-increasing expression of our soul energy. If or when we are operating from the perspective of our soul, our timeless, infinite existence, we see the larger picture. Asking for what there is to be grateful for in any circumstance, radical gratitude, moves us into this sacred perspective. I love to give the example of, everyone knows who Suzanne Summers is, old Three's Company show. So, and by the way, I didn't ever think that when I was 16 years old watching Three's Company, I'd be quoting Suzanne Summers from the pulpit for her metaphysical understanding. But we had some fires in Malibu near where I live in California several years ago, and hers was one of the homes that burned down. This was on the cover of the LA Times. And so they're interviewing her, standing in front of the smoldering ashes of her home. And they say, how do you feel in this moment? And her immediate response was, I know something good will come from this. Feel the power in that? And you have to know that something good came from it. Now, something good would have come from it anyway. But I will bet you that she was able to access that good much more quickly as a result of being open to it. What I find is that when we resist anything, we create a block in energy. Wherever that resistance is, if it's a physical symptom, wherever the pain is, and I'm blocking it, or I'm resisting it, and I'm blocking the energy in that spot in my body. Okay? Or if it's an emotional thing, I'm blocking the energy. And as soon as I embrace, as soon as I surrender and embrace, then the energy flows. And what is the energy? The energy of love. It's the only energy that really is. And so when I resist, I'm blocking the love. I was watching my wife the other day, who's been having some chronic knee pain, and it's starting to get better, but this was a few months ago probably, and she was looking at her knee and saying, I love you to it, right? Because it was hurting her. How often do we do the opposite and think, damn, this hurts? And we're sending negative energy to the part of us that hurts, right? And I ask you intuitively, isn't this quality of radical gratitude, or seeing the larger picture? Because any time that we embrace, any time we surrender, we then ascend to a place where we get a higher view, where we can see a larger picture of what's going on. An even timeless perspective, from the perspective of our soul. And so isn't this kind of perspective prerequisite to enlightenment? And I think all of our spiritual teachers that are popular today are saying the same message in different ways. So Byron Katie, any Byron Katie fans? Says, love everything. Love every experience that comes to you. Eckhart Tolle says, give up resistance to what is. August Gold, minister in New York, in the book, The Prayer Chest, says, invite everything. Robert Scheinfeld in Busting Loose from the Money Game, one of my also all-time favorites, says, appreciate everything in life. I say look for the magic in everything. I've got the Buddha. This was actually attributed to the Buddha. Actually, I think I was in Canmore when I saw this quote in a metaphysical bookstore there. And I went and looked it up online. And by the way, we're not sure if the Buddha said it, because I looked up the exact quote, and it was a site that had a picture of the Buddha, and the title was, I did not say that. It's a list of all the things that the Buddha didn't say, but were attributed to him. And, but I like to think he probably said it to somebody in passing sometime. So what it said, what the Buddha was reportedly said is, when you get to the realization that everything in life is perfect, just the way it is, you can do this with me, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. Do you feel the freedom and the power? And my most recent all-time favorite quote by Pam Grout, and Pam Grout fans, in EQ, says, when we realize that whatever's happening right now, in this moment, is the perfect thing to be happening right now, then we're aligned with a field of potential. And being aligned with a field of potential means that the power of the universe is available to me in this moment. You see, because when I am resisting anything, that's where I'm putting my power. And two things are happening. One thing is I am holding what I don't want in place by putting negative energy into it. And the other thing is I'm spending my energy. I'm throwing my power away from me. When I allow, when I embrace, when I surrender, then I am at peace. And the more peaceful I am inside, the more power I have to create what I want. You know, I felt I was pretty good at manifestation, but a lot of the time, it took me a lot of work to manifest what I wanted to manifest. And I look at these people who would, like, you know, they want to get a book published, and they meet a publisher at Starbucks, right? I thought, that's the way I want to manifest, right? And I didn't know how to get there until after years of practicing, looking for the magic in every experience, because a couple things happened as a result of practicing this over and over, is I now give up resistance to what is. And fear becomes almost non-existent because I know that no matter what happens, I will gain something of valuable to it. Does that make sense? And so, as a result, I become more and more at peace, and I therefore become more and more powerful. I'll give you a couple more examples. So, I'm driving around along the freeway one day in my Toyota Celica convertible. Love that car. And the Mercedes SUV in front of me. And I'm driving on the 405 in California, and I'm going at about 55 miles an hour. And there should have been a sign that if I'm driving 55 miles an hour on the 405, that, you know, something's amiss, because it's always traffic, right? And so the traffic comes to a stop, and the Mercedes hits its brakes, and I barely have enough time to just screech to a halt just before hitting it. And I look in the rearview mirror, and I see the guy behind me is not going to be as lucky as I was. And he slams into me, and my Toyota Celica becomes an accordion. And I instantly recognize, same thing that Suzanne Summers said, something good's going to come from this. I'm going to get a new car. And I had just been thinking, a day before that, I think it's time for a new car. There are easier ways to get new cars, but that's the way it unfolded for me. And the interesting thing about it is the next day, I mean, with that impact, I've been in a couple accidents before that and had, like, you know, the whiplash and the stiffness and all that. The next day I had no stiffness. And my wife said to me, she had just heard on the radio a couple days before that when you're in an accident and you get whiplash, it's usually not from the impact, it's from the tensing up prior to the impact. And because I looked back and I saw that this was going to happen, and I had no fear, because this practice has become so ingrained in me, that I was not concerned about the outcome from an emotional standpoint, that I never tensed up. I had no pain ever from that. A couple years later, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And when the doctor told me over the phone, I was like in shock, because when I went in for the biopsy, I thought, there ain't no cancer in my body. I was not 99.9% sure. I was 100% sure there was no cancer in my body, because I was living at the highest level, at the highest vibration that I ever had in my life. There couldn't be anything wrong with my body. And he gave me the news. I was in shock, and yet I hung up the phone, and instantaneously thought that something good will happen. And lots of good came, really causing me to go deep. 100% cancer-free now. If I had more time, I could tell you all the gifts that came out of that experience. And sometimes I find it even easier to do it with really big things like that than simple things. Last night I was sitting at the table at my friend Lucille Rome's home. She's a great soul. Love her. And I realized, man, I was so organized in how I packed all my stuff in Edmonton to get ready.